Attention everybody, the views and opinions expressed on the show are not necessarily those of Acts Ministry, Acts Media Group, and or their affiliate and subordinate ministries and or nonprofits. It's that time again. It's the Happy Hour with your host, Dr. Paul, and his lovely wife, Nancy, with our guest, Bonnie, and
Abigail.
Abby. Take it away, Dr. Paul.
Well, good morning. Happy Friday morning to you on the Happy Hour. Glad to have you with us. Tell a friend and tell them after the broadcast so they can catch the replay, because it'll be replayed and replayed and replayed. And we'll start out this way. Top of the news. Donald Trump and his beautiful wife have tested positive for the coronavirus 19, COVID-19. And we wish them the best and pray for them to have the best. They are in quarantine, and we're expecting them to not have any symptoms and to walk through the quarantine in good shape. Anyway, I had a whole lot of news that I'd printed off. I was going to run down through, and that just threw it all out the window. So that is the top of the news today. Our president and the first lady tested positive. All right. In the meantime, there is a newsletter online from Acts Ministry, and I hope you'll go to actsmediagroup.com and get it. It's a great letter this time. It's really lengthy, but it has an article about food distribution. It has an article about moi. That's French for me. Acts founder, Dr. Paul Collins, now book publisher. And it was written by Randall Phillips, and he's a great journalistic writer. And Randall is the guy that Acts Ministry had the fundraisers for and enabled him to get a kidney transplant after being on dialysis for over 11 years. And now he's one surgery away from the wrap-up. They're going to redo one little tube on the inside of him, and when he recovers from that, he's fine. The new kidney is working, functioning properly.
Paul Collins, we need to pray that one little tube would be healed and he wouldn't need that surgery.
Right. And then his fiancée, who is the editor of the Acts Ministry Real News Review newsletter, Jackie Scott, has been diagnosed with cancer in her neck region, the arteries and so forth. And as of right now, the president of Acts Ministry, Dr. Jim Whining, is with Jackie, taking her to see her oncologist in Kansas City. So we'll be praying for Jackie. Now, meantime, hello, Shirley Simpson up in St. Joe, my first secretary. Bless your heart. Miss you, dear. Miss you so much. Wish you lived in Springfield. You could be my secretary again. We'd have a good time. Between you and me and Nancy, we'd get the work done. Also,
and Hannah.
Oh, yeah, and with Hannah's help. Also, hello to Earl Carpenter. Earl was the first new friend I made in Springfield when I moved here in August of 1977.
And that was 43 years ago?
Right.
Oh, boy.
That's when we met. That's why she's so delighted she remembers. Anyway.
I know.
And hello to Jerry Chambers, was a teenager in my church in St. Joe. He's a retired school administrator now, living in Chesterfield, Missouri. Hello to the girls in Texas, Judy and Galen, and that's South Central Texas, and South Central Texas, and South Central and South Texas. Then also in Northwest Texas, up in the Panhandle, all of the folks there, the Elvers, the Gages, etc.
And the Ways.
And the Ways, Lyle Way, great Christian novelist. You girls, you need to read some of his stuff. Nobody writes like Lyle Way, and he lives in Ransom Canyon, Texas, right off the Cap Rock outside of Lubbock. Anyway, there's a lot of good stuff in this issue. I printed this off. Go online and read it all. Here's one by Donna Moeller. Donna is a licensed professional counselor, and she's with Acts Ministry, lives out in the Denver area. And here's an article by Jean Andrus, a local lady. I like this. What to do when God calls you. Yeah, I remember that very well. And then here's Randall talking about, well, they're talking about Randall Phillips and his kidney replacement. And then there's also a listing of all of the stuff that's on television via Acts Media Group. All the programming is there. Now, also as a part of my housekeeping, I have in my hands Whole Body Healing and Health, addressing the physical, spiritual, and emotional. The Mackelman Holistic Health Clinic, along with, I'll get this, Abigail, Heart of Pain Solutions. And the featured speakers, Dr. Bonnie Mackelman and Abigail Meadows, and they're our guests today. And this is happening Saturday, October the 17th, and we'll be reminding you about it. Limited seating. Call now to reserve your spot, and we want you to call. I must repeat this number several times. The area code is 417 because, you see, we are currently in what I call Springburg, USA. Our little city, Springfield, Missouri, southwest corner of the state, almost, southwest quadrant. What do we have, 160-some thousand people in Springfield city limits, but about 250,000 in the greater Springfield area. Anyway, it's Springburg, USA, and they're just south of us in the suburbs of Nixa. Now, if you're a native around here, Abigail, you're not a native from here, right?
I'm not.
You're going to have to learn to talk hillbilly.
Y'all?
And because, can you talk hillbilly, Teresa? We got.
Oh, she does, all the way
oh,
here.
yeah, look at her. Teresa's face mask says, "Hey, y'all."
She's all the way here. She was trying to teach me how to say that, and I said, forget it. It sounds like you have a mouthful of marbles.
Well, there was Demosthenes who started out that way with pebbles in his mouth so he could learn to speak in the Greek mythology. Remember that? Of course you do. Well, not personally.
No.
Neither one of us are that old. But anyway, we're glad to have Teresa, the office manager, sitting here as our audience. And we're glad to have Dr. Bonnie and her newest partner, Abigail, otherwise known as Abby. And we're going to have some interesting stuff to talk about concerning your health, physically, spiritually, and emotionally. Let's see, who else do I need to greet? Folks out there in Lubbock, the Elvers.
Yeah, you said that.
Okay, and Mark Elvers' mother, Shirley Farley, she's getting along much better. And Shirley is about my age. She's doing well. Okay, those are the housekeeping items up to this point. Now, let me tell you what I know from going online. Abigail, we need to get acquainted with you and your tapping therapy. Now, in our lobby, which serves as our green room for this highly professional television broadcast, I mentioned our tap dancers.
Mm-hmm. Not the same.
Our tap dancers, Peggy Lee and Jeff with a G, and their programs on Acts Ministries, Acts Media Group. When are they on? Let's see. Wednesdays from 10 until 11. Every Wednesday morning from 10 to 11. Peggy Lee and Jeff with a G. Anyway, Abigail, what is tapping therapy?
Well,
Cut right up that microphone now.
Okay.
Don't be afraid of it. Now
Okay.
grab it by the arm. There you go.
Okay.
Good girl.
yes, tapping therapy. I wouldn't necessarily call it that, but as you mentioned earlier, we're hosting a whole body healing and health seminar, and to address the physical and the spiritual and the emotional. And if you go to Philippians 4, there's a passage that says, whatsoever things are true, honest, noble, of good report. And the active verb in that passage is to think upon these things.
Mm-hmm.
And so to more fully expand on what I can do to help my community. How we process our thinking comes from many years of memories, and some of us have memories or incidences that are traumatic, and we might hold subconscious thoughts in such a way that it may create anxiety in the present, but we don't really know where the anxiety is coming from or the triggers. If we smell a smell, we might feel afraid. Some people might lash out and they don't really know why, what prompted them. And so what happens is I work when we feel those lashing outs or the anxiety, they're coming from experiences and memories. And those memories flood our system. And they affect the bladder, the stomach, the heart. Our brain floods our system with cortisol. And those emotions reside in our body. And so when you speak of tapping therapy, it's more really truly an acupressure, where when I'm working with a client and they're in the middle of, we call it sometimes the cook is in the kitchen, when they're in the middle of a memory, we tap on the meridian points of the body, the up above the eye, beside the eye, below the eye, and each meridian point connects to an organ in our body. It's like acupuncture without the needles.
Okay, now, I'll let you catch your breath.
I've
Don't-
never done this before, quite like
Don't
this.
be nervous. Just do like I do. Just flip it off.
I'm doing good.
Anyway,
See, I need to tap away I feel a certain sense of emotion at this moment. And so I can just relax and breathe and mentally tap away the emotions of fear or, oh no, what's coming next?
Nancy and I, we watch a lot of television. That's our little thing that we do. And we watch a lot of NCIS New Orleans. In other words, NCIS New Orleans. And
Mullins.
one of my favorite characters is Sebastian, who was the lab tech, and then he became also an agent. But Sebastian has this thing that he didn't talk until he was 3 years old. Then it's incessant, and he rushes in to tell us about his findings in the lab, and he's just rolling on, and then finally he stops and counts. He does his thing to calm down so he can go through things one at a time. I need to know from you, what is EFT behind your name?
Emotional freedom technique or transformation,
Okay, and what's the NLP?
neuro-linguistic programming, and both are very much about empowering individuals to take control of their thoughts.
Okay. Now, where did you learn this stuff?
I learned this at Skills to Change Institute in Oklahoma City.
Now, what's it? What's the name?
Skills to Change Institute.
Okay.
And I was certified in 2013.
Uh-huh.
And after that, I worked in a naturopathic office, working with the mind and the body. I worked with a naturopath and an allopathic physician. They treated the physical, and I treated the emotional side of the physical, because harboring negative emotions can definitely affect our bodies.
Now, excuse me, the NLP. Tell me, did you get that at the same place, same training? Okay. You used the term allopathic, and many people do not know that that's a traditional medical.
Traditional medicine, yes.
And for instance, our primary care physician is a lady medical doctor, lady MD,
Yes.
and she practices allopathic medicine.
Yes.
Now, we are obviously people who have a certain amount of shared faith as far as religion is concerned. So I turn over here to Bonnie, Dr. Bonnie, naturopath. Bonnie, remind us, you were an RN, still are,
Yes, I'm RN and had been for many years, worked ORER up in Michigan. And then I moved into having a health food store up there and then got a master level certification in reflexology and then continued on with school and got my doctor of naturopathy from Trinity School of Natural Health in Indiana. So, yes.
Okay, so we're covering some bases here. Nancy was a nurse doing geriatrics her whole career.
I loved it. Oh boy.
I'm so blessed. I can take an aspirin a day and go to bed with a nurse. Look how healthy I am, you know.
That's the Holy Spirit.
And so we have lots of disciplines represented here. In fact, I have a college degree and a seminary degree from a denominational seminary. Master of Divinity took 3 years. You know, that's unreal to me. You can be anybody else, and in about a year get a master's. But if you're clergy, 3 years. But then 2 more years, and I got my doctorate. My doctorate's in psychology. Now, don't
Good.
be intimidated.
I'm not at
Because
all.
what I know is as old as dirt.
I am not. In fact, when I first greet a client, the first thing I tell them is that you're not broken. And the world of psychology, and really it's true, the world of psychology, and I'm not trying to discredit them
No, of
in
course
any
not.
way, but they add a diagnosis on top of someone who came to them and they're already suffering. And then on top of that, they may offer them medication, which is only a Band-Aid. And so when I tell that person, you're not broken, they look at me like a deer caught in the headlights. What? And so what I then teach them is you just don't have the skill to deal with what you've been through.
I like that approach
And
very
so
much.
I wanted to share that the allopathic traditional medicine physician that I worked with up north, she had a patient that was on antidepressants and also had fibromyalgia. Well, this woman was being treated medically, which was helpful, but the woman in January of 14 attempted suicide. And fortunately, she was found. She then went back for a checkup with the medical physician, and the medical physician basically said, you need to go see Abby. And so I worked with this woman about 4 times. A session is typically 2 hours. We worked on several memories, and one of them was her father did attempt to kill her and her siblings, which is a very traumatic thing. When we were completed with a round of 4 different sessions, her fibromyalgia went away. And Dr. Voss got her off of antidepressants. In fact, I moved then to Springfield in 2016, and she called me asking, would you work with my sister? I said, well, I'm not in Kansas City anymore. But I asked her how she was doing. She said, I'm still free of fibromyalgia and I'm doing very well.
I like that report. That's what
Yes.
you call a good report.
Yes.
Now, you're going to be covering some of this, I'm sure,
Yes.
in the Whole Body Healing and Health
Yes.
seminar that you're having. Dr. Bonnie, tell us more about this, what your role is going to be, and then also how people can find you. That's going to be important, too.
Yes, right. And I want to be sure that the phone number is out there, 417 area code 912-0818. And my part of it will be teaching along the line of nutrition and hydration and how that affects your body organs and how to eat right, going back to the Bible as the basis of nutrition, and about testing the body organs, glands, and systems for deficiencies and what to do about those.
Okay, now, Nixa, by the way, I was going to teach you to speak hillbilly. You have to say Nixie.
My Michigan brain cannot accept it.
You have to say Nixie. If you're gonna be at Sucker Days
Oh,
It,
that was canceled.
Sucker Days does not happen in Nixa. It happens in Nixie. And if you're going to go over to Aurora, you'll bypass it because it's not Aurora, it's Aurora.
Oh,
I didn't know that.
I wonder if all the kids know how to spell Aurora
Oh,
correctly.
sure, they spell-
Same way with Nixie.
They spell Aurora R-O-W-A. Now, also, if you're going to
Okay.
be running over toward Ava, you'll miss it unless you call it Avy. That's Avy.
Are you serious?
I didn't
I'm
know that
serious.
either.
I'm serious.
Yeah.
As they used to say in the North St. Louis area, if I'm lying, I'm dying. That's what they used to say.
Well,
That was the North St. Louis saying, and I never lived there, but I had to live among them in Jefferson City when I was there to research and write a book for the government. And there were quite a few people there working for the state of Missouri who were from the North St. Louis area, and they'd say, if I'm lying, I'm dying. All right, now, Nixa. In Nixa, Dr. Bonnie, how they find you?
Okay, we are right off from 14, one block in from 14, north of 14, on 720 West Center Circle.
Okay, now, bear in mind, there's a highway between Springfield or Springburg and Nixie, and it is 160, otherwise known as South Campbell Avenue. But it's 160, and if you're coming from Springfield, when you get on the edge of Nixie, there's Highway 14. It runs east and west. And you will hang a left
Right.
to hang a right if you're coming from Springfield.
A right.
Oh, then, okay. Then you
West.
You go west. Go west on 14. And how far west do you go?
Just a couple of blocks until you come to a stoplight at Truman,
Okay.
and you turn right again on Truman,
Okay.
one block, and you'll find Center Circle, and then you turn left.
Okay. From
We're close to
Springfield, it's right, and then left. And from if you're coming from south of Nixie, then it's a left and a right and a left. Anyway,
Correct.
call the number and and also how about going online? Can they find you online too?
Yes. On Facebook, you can actually find the clinic site on there. It's McElman Holistic Health Clinic, Nixa, Missouri.
Okay, so do that. And I notice here you also have virtual attendance is also available. Please ask about arrangements. This is getting to be the thing with this COVID deal. A lot of virtual meetings going on. I find that very fascinating. How are you going to pull this off, ladies?
Now, that is, Teresa should have a mic because that's her
Yes.
area. She's handling
Yes.
that
I
completely.
actually can do sessions virtually, and I have. I've
Okay.
worked with people from all over the world, Canada, England, United
Really?
States, and I've done those sessions virtually. I like in person better because you can feel the body language
Right.
a little better, but I have done virtual sessions.
I'm the same way. I taught at Ozark Community Technical College for about 10 years. I like an audience in person. If I was there now and having to do everything virtually, I'm not sure how I would. I just like the exchange with the
Yes.
students, But we live in the world that we live in. So how are you set up, Bonnie, to handle this?
The virtual?
Yeah.
That part?
Yeah, how are you set up to handle it?
And well, actually, I'm not dealing with that part of it all. Like I said, Teresa is totally
Oh.
handling that.
Okay.
And so
Yeah.
maybe Abby
How-
will have some
It will
information.
likely be a Zoom link or a Facebook Live.
Okay, all right. See, we have what we're doing now is a virtual broadcast. We are on Facebook and YouTube and 3 or 4 other platforms live, and then it's recorded, and they can go back and find it again in the archives on axmediagroup.com.
Yes.
What if somebody misses your virtual presentation live? Will they be able to pick it up later?
With a Zoom link, we honestly haven't gotten that finalized just yet.
Okay.
But if we do a Zoom link, it can be recorded, and yes, we can archive it and have it available for people to connect to.
All right. What I'm going to suggest, folks, is that you call area code 417. The number is 912-0818. Please write it down. If you don't write it down, you'll forget it. 417-912-0818. When you call that number, ask for Teresa. She has all the answers.
All the technical answers.
True.
She has, she'll be able to tell you how to navigate everything. So it's at the Mackelman Holistic Health Clinic and Heart of Pain Solutions with Dr. Bonnie Mackelman and Abigail Meadows. And the cost is very reasonable, $25. $25 these days is not the same as $25 back a number of years ago. You ladies may not recall this, and some of you too young to recall, but in 1985, if you had a $100 bill in your wallet, you kept that $100 bill in your wallet. Today, it has a purchasing power of $15 since 1985. So $25 isn't much. On our way here, Nancy and I passed a certain well-known coffee purveyor, a long line of cars
Always,
waiting,
every day.
waiting to spend a lot of money on a cup of coffee. I had 2 cups this morning, and Nancy made it delicious. And I didn't pay near what those people are paying. So if you are a fan of high-priced coffee, then you notice that $25 for a really good seminar is not that much, especially something that's so valuable. Dr. Bonnie's been on our program a couple of times before, and naturopathic medicine, we'll call it, is coming on very strong as people look for alternatives because of the cost of pharmaceuticals. And anybody that watches TV, they advertise a drug, and then they tell you all the side effects.
Not all of them.
No.
They don't.
But they'll list like a dozen things that can happen to you if you take that medicine. People are becoming more aware, I think, all the time. And naturopathic medicine, I think, is just beginning to come into its own. I think the sky's the limit.
Yes, I'm trying to teach people how to heal their bodies, take care of their bodies, and maintain and do preventative totally naturally through nutrition and hydration. And sometimes this does require some testing and find out where deficiencies are and what to do about it. But basically, back to your diet, back to the original diet.
You and Dr. Rubin, the Maker's Diet.
Yes.
Jordan
yes,
Rubin.
Right, exactly.
He's not Dr. Rubin, he's just Jordan Rubin. But he has a place east of Springburg, USA, where he runs cattle. Yeah, he has a ranch, we would call it. It's really a farm in Missouri, but someplace else they call it a ranch, where he runs cattle. And he is quite a popular guy when it comes to proper eating. We watch some others on television quite often who are into natural things. Our area is not overpopulated with naturopathic physicians. They are scarce. So if you want to be in on some of this, you need to be calling 417-912-0818 and find out what your alternatives are. Yes.
Abby, have you ever taken care of the military?
I have.
Oh, good.
Yes, this modality is definitely beneficial for post-traumatic stress disorder,
you
whether
go.
it's a war
Yes,
veteran,
exactly.
a child, a person experiencing childhood abuse, or has had, and also domestic violence.
Oh, good.
Yes.
That's great.
Yes,
I
Bonnie.
also wanted to mention something new we've had for a few months now, and we are one of a very, very, very few in a very large radius outside of hospitals is for outpatient clinic. Is we have a hyperbaric oxygen chamber.
Oh, wow.
Oh, right. I
Yes.
wanted to hear about that.
Yes, we just got it up and running about a month and a half ago, something like that, a couple months maybe, and it's absolutely phenomenal. It, increasing the oxygen in the body. Not only is it just good for wound healing, which is the typical reason most people know about, but it's good for just a gamut of other issues that help when you increase the oxygen on the cellular level, from autoimmune diseases to even post-stroke symptoms and cancer. I'm using it myself periodically to increase the oxygen level because things like cancer and a lot of other illnesses thrive in a low oxygen environment. So it's awesome. This is one of our new things we're really
This has been on the
excited
news
about.
over the last very few months. There's been some news coverage about the use of oxygen in the treatment of things, and it had been out of reach of folks in our area, as far as I know, and now it's within reach, right down here at Nixie, Missouri. Is this related to ORAC, O-R-A-C, oxygen radical absorbance capacity?
Not that I'm aware of.
Okay, I did a little anticipating that this might come up. I did a little research on this, and ORAC, O-R-A-C, is a method of measuring antioxidant capacities in biological samples in vitro, and so they measured in ORAC units per 100 grams. They check the various foods as to what their ORAC factor is, and utilizing oxygen for the antioxidant capabilities. How about that?
Interesting, yes. I don't have any way of doing that type of testing. We do a number of other testing with conductivity and pH and
pH.
yes, which is very important. And then also measuring cellular debris and urea and a number of things.
Is it good for rheumatoid arthritis?
Yes, any anti-inflammatory response. Yes.
Oh, we've got a friend that's, bless her heart, so bad, arthritis. And it would be awesome if they were able to get her down there.
Yeah, like I said, it's good for any inflammatory response. It works like an anti-inflammatory. Yeah.
Oh my goodness. Oh wow. Jesus, that's awesome. Oh.
We folks, we are on the cusp of great things here. It's like a return to my past. I wasn't reared. I was raised. I was raised on home remedies,
Yeah.
and I've told people I think my mom invented the butterfly bandage because I had my face split open. Went to the house. I didn't cry until my brother, who hit me, started crying. The older brother, and then I started crying, and blood was every place. And my mom, she took some tape and she made a little butterfly bandage, taped it together. Didn't know what a stitch was.
Tell her about the killer cure.
Yeah. Oh, the killer cure. Now, there was a certain, I won't use brand names, there was a certain liniment that was sold door to door. It had a doctor's name on it. And whatever was wrong with you, my mom would say, okay, I'll fix you up a little killer cure. And she'd get a water glass, and she'd put about this much of that liniment. The bottle clearly said for external use only.
Oh no.
In the bottom of the water glass, she'd put about that much sugar, and then fill it up with water, stir it all up, and say, drink it. It'll either kill you or cure you. And it always cured us. Now, I don't recommend that. See, there's a reason I didn't tell you the name of the
Yes.
on the bottle. But my mom, she liked elderberry bark. My dad had blood poisoning in his arm. Before I was born, but I heard the story. If it hadn't been for elderberry bark, I wouldn't be here because there would have been no cozying up together on an October night in 1934 so I could get here in June of 35. My dad had blood poisoning. It was going up his arm. In those days, they said if it went up and reached your heart, you were dead. See, a lot of people died in their 40s back then.
Yes.
And my dad was in his 30s. So my mom sent the older kids out. They grabbed the elderberry limbs, pulled them off of the elderberry bushes, and she cut the bark off, put it in a big pot on the wood stove, heated it up so it was steaming. She had what we called a tea towel. Now that's what you dry dishes with, a tea towel. She put over that, and then my dad would slip his arm in there and hold it as long as he could stand it, then out, in and out, in and out. He lived. The blood poisoning went down, disappeared, and on an October night when it was a little chilly, like it's getting to be now, in that 3-room house in Randolph County, 3 rooms, living room, kitchen, and a bedroom about 8 by 10 at the most. It was chilly. Good excuse to cuddle a little bit. Voila. Along comes kid number 6, me, next June. So I'm thankful for elderberry bark. There's all kinds of stuff out there that works. Bonnie and Abigail, you'll appreciate this. Back a number of years ago, Nancy and I, my 80-year-old uncle, took us for a walk in North Missouri, back through the timber, over hill and dale and through the brush.
He made sure it was the longest way to get to the place that was so short.
He was testing us, our stamina. We were climbing through barbed wire fences and everything as we were walking along. Old Uncle Johnny called me Bud. He said, "Bud, see that dead bush there? This was in the month of February." I said, "Yeah." He said, "Break off a piece of that and chew on it." I did. He said, "What's it taste like?" I said, "It tastes like aspirin." He said, "Yeah, that's where Indians, how they handle a toothache was with that plant." Well, the earth is the Lord's and the fullness
White
thereof.
birch, I bet. I bet it was white birch.
I don't know, but it sure tasted like aspirin.
White birch does that.
Isn't that amazing that all this stuff, God put it in the earth for us, and man goes into a laboratory and starts messing around, finding ways to kind of,
Manufacture it
you know,
and monopolize it.
yeah, there you go. And now some of these meds are very expensive until they go generic. And I found out the other day talking to a pharmacist lady who's been a guest on our show twice, not to talk about pharmacy, but talk about wild hog hunting with a bow and arrow, which she and her husband do in Texas. But anyway, she was explaining the various levels of a drug becoming generic and the pricing, how other companies get certain rights to it. Gradually, the price comes down. But at the start, these pharmaceutical industry, they're making tons of money. That's why they can advertise like they do.
I know, but Paul, they would say, I've heard it said that they have to spend so much money on developing new meds that's why I guess the pricing is that way. But the thing of it is, there's lots of people out there that can't afford them.
That's true. That's true. Now, Abigail.
Present.
We're going to have you accounted for in a moment. You have been empowering clients since 2013. We caught that date a while ago. Here it says with a toolbox, in quote marks, of self-empowerment skills. I like that
Yes.
because this kind of stuff needs to be coming not just from pulpits, but it needs to be coming from people who are involved in anything having to do with the physical
Yes.
and emotional life.
Oh, wow.
Not just the spiritual life, but all three together.
Well, they're all the same.
They're all the
The
same.
mind is the body is the mind.
And somewhere in there's a life force, and as long as it's there, you want to be treating these other things. Your emotional freedom technique. Oh, that's the EFT. Neuro-linguistic programming. That's the NLP. With mindfulness and stress relieving techniques. These tools are helpful with anxiety, trauma, stress, phobia, abuse recovery, depression, grief/loss, and emotional / physical pains. Let's back up and deal with these just a little bit here.
Okay.
Mindfulness and stress relieving techniques. We are in an age of stress.
And
Now, I don't mean to minimize nor maximize. Just want to try to tell the facts. There are some folks who have been very stressed because of COVID-19. The change in lifestyle. We all came in wearing masks. We'll put them on before we leave. I noticed there's a movement in Springfield, Springburg, USA, right now. A lady who's getting petitions to get the city council to do away with the mask ordinance. And there's a lot of, where there is tension, there is stress. We have people who are stressed out because they can't go see their favorite sports team. People are stressed out because they weren't able to go to movies. There are people whose hobby was eating out. Now that's been interfered with. There's a lot of things that wouldn't think they cause stress, but they do. Because when we have our lifestyle bent a direction or so, it kind of throws, as we'd say in the Ozarks, kind of things throws things out of kilter. Stress. You deal with that.
I do. And stress is a response, an inward response to perception. If you go back in history in the Ozarks, you've got a cabin, you've got a mom and a dad, and they're raising several children in a 3-room house. They're not stressed about not going out to eat because that's not part of their daily perception of life. But today we are so inundated with going out to eat, sports teams, and when, like you said, when it gets out of kilter, we feel stress. COVID is a stress response. We're responding because it's altering our lifestyle,
Exactly.
our perception.
Exactly.
And so if I were to work with someone that was afraid of COVID or stressed about it, I would work on when was the first time you felt fear, because there's a foundation behind every fear.
In fact, any, whether people will admit it or not, some may not even know that with any deviation in their normal routine or lifestyle, the fear element has room to get in there, and they may not. Most people, especially these,
Don't give fear a name, or don't give fear the power, because it's not fear, it's the thought of fear.
There you go.
The perception of fear. Fear is just what we think. It's not real. It is and it isn't.
Can it be a part of a person's operation, their modus operandi, without them admitting
Absolutely.
and without them acknowledging, and it creates some underlying stress?
Absolutely. That's what I referenced when I first began, is that subconscious. Our subconscious is more powerful than our conscious mind. It very much is.
Okay, now, anxiety. Anyone who's ever had an anxiety attack will know what I say. An anxiety attack can hurt you physically.
Yes.
You feel it physically.
Heart, blood rate escalates.
All that. And anxiety is more of an issue than I think modern Americans are willing to admit. I had a college student whose therapist, who was a psychiatrist, MD, who specialized in psychology, referred her to me because she was dealing with very bad anxiety. Folks, it can be a major issue. You may have someone in your family that you wonder what's wrong, what's happening. Get them to see Dr. Bonnie and see Abigail, because between the two of them, they probably can come up with some answers and some treatment. Trauma. What about traumatic things that happened to somebody
I-
10 years ago?
I will give a brief example. I assume we're drawing to a close, so I don't want to take up too much time. Okay. During my training, there was a woman about 60 years old. She had agreed to being worked on in front of the class, and she had been violated. I'll use the more. She had been raped in college, and the perpetrator pushed her into her car and also strangled her while the deed was being done. So for that entire, she would have been 20, and then coming to the class, she would have been 50 or 60. She talked like this because the trauma had landed in her throat physically.
Oh, I see. Sure.
So 30 minutes into the session, her voice came back. So yes, trauma, whether it's abuse, whether it's abandonment, rape, a car accident, the trauma of the accident will cause nightmares, can cause nightmares, flashbacks, and that's all the subconscious manifesting in the body. And I can totally work with that person and dismantle that structure.
What about kids in school? And they
Yes.
start acting out in various ways.
Well, definitely tapping could help them. It would be a method of calming them down and also teaching them that they have a choice to be at peace or to be angry. If you pass a car in a 2-lane highway, if you pass a car, I know for me, I will get a rush of adrenaline. Oh no, I could get hit by the oncoming traffic. And that adrenaline is a response to what I was thinking. Oh no, I might get hit. But as soon as I pass the car and I'm in the safe lane, I take a breath, I mentally tap, and I recognize I'm completely safe in the moment. I wasn't hit. But what caused that adrenaline rush? Have any of you experienced that? It was what I thought, my perception of fear.
Okay, we're running close on time here, but
So,
really quick, like
yes.
phobias. Most people are not aware that
That-
some people have been programmed to have
Yes.
phobias, like walking down the sidewalk, step on a
Yes.
crack, break your mama's back, a black cat crossing your path. One crosses our path many times every day. Her name is Hannah in our home. But then you have this even exacerbates into such things as obsessive compulsive behavior
Addictions,
disorder
Yes, and also addictions.
and addictions, all of this area, depression. In America today,
Yes.
where in spite of COVID-19, everything's coming up roses, we have all kinds of people dealing with depression, and they're dependent upon drugs, and they become more dependent and more dependent and more dependent on pharmaceuticals
Yes.
to handle depression.
Oh, wow.
Depression is a skill. It's not a sickness. It's a skill.
Okay, now you want to learn more about that. Some of you folks may be so depressed that you're going to have trouble getting up off the couch or out of your recliner or whatever to get to this seminar. But if you know somebody like that, get them there to find out there are relief factors that have nothing to do with taking a pill.
Yes.
Also, grief and loss. There are people that struggle going through the grief process when a loved one has gone on to heaven, and there are some answers. There are definitely some answers. This is counseling of a different kind. This isn't strictly counseling. This is a technique. It's a new to me methodology.
It's actually being experimented with the APA right now, and it's getting very high reports, very, very favorable reports.
What's APA?
Oh, American Psychological Association. EMDR was in an experimental stage for quite some time. This is also. So that's why I mentioned the toolbox, Dr. Collins, is that there are different tools. There's positive psychology, there's mindfulness, there's EFT, there's NLP. So I offer like the I don't want to use the hammer. Metaphorically speaking, I have a hammer and I have a screwdriver and I have a tape measure in my toolbox to help you. My method does not extract or exclude a psychiatrist or a medical doctor. I actually encourage them to go to their counselor, to their medical doctor, to never just say, well, Abby's got it all, because I don't. It's really about working together.
I like this, and I'm going to wrap it up this way by saying, folks, this is not to throw my credentials out there. That's not the point. My point is I am pretty well educated as an educator and as a clergyman, and then with my doctorate. And I studied even at the Menninger Clinic when it was in Topeka, Kansas years ago, psychiatry and religion relationship. And I went to many postgraduate symposiums at medical schools, Tennessee, Kentucky, Iowa, Missouri, Kansas, etc. And I have an advanced certificate in hypnotherapy. And I can tell you,
Yes.
this is new to me, and I like it because I am concerned about the body and the mind and, of course, that life force we call the spirit person living within us. Don't overlook this, whatever you do. Dare to think a little bit outside the box so that you can see what the box looks like, and get in touch. Call this number, 912-0818, 912-0818. Go online to Facebook. Look these ladies up and get in on this. Coming up, it's October the
17th.
October the 17th on a Saturday from 10 until noon in Nixa, Missouri.
You can also find me or Heart of Pain Solutions on Facebook, and also Dr. Bonnie McAlman.
All right.
We're both on Facebook.
Good.
We
All
will
right.
also be having a guest speaker there, a holistic dentist,
Yes.
Dr. Wesley Mullen.
Well, now there's something for you. That's a new one on me, too, a holistic dentist. Folks, this is very exciting stuff. Get with the program. Also, between now and then, if you're not doing anything else day after tomorrow on Sunday afternoon, stop in and see us at First Acts Church. Nancy and I will be there. And we're meeting in the Council of Churches of the Ozarks headquarters building, right in the heart almost of Springburg, USA.
Glenstone, the traffic light.
Glenstone and Chestnut Expressway.
That's right.
Anyway, that's this Sunday, 2 o'clock, in the Council of Churches building, Glenstone and Chestnut, southwest corner, right behind a Mexican restaurant, and that's a good way to find it. It's been there for years, beautiful building, and we'll be there at 2 o'clock having a good time. Meantime, since you're new, I'm going to give you, for appearing on our show, a signed copy of Embraced by the Spirit that I wrote in 2005. I need to update it. I've learned something since 2005. All right. Our guy, Matthew Pearson, sitting over there looking at me like, it's time.
Do I have
Yeah.
30 seconds?
30 seconds.
Okay. One thing I did want to bring out is that we do not want to forget about is the spiritual side, because we can take care of the physical, the emotional, and get somebody healed, doing well, and not address the spiritual, and in the long term, their eternity is lost. What good would it have been? Just wanted to
Amen.
add that.
Amen. Coming from a preacher. Amen. Nancy, amen, as they say on TV.
I won't say that. I'll say so be it.
There you go. That's what amen means, so be it. All right, we're all done. Folks, see you next Friday. Same time, same place, same chief engineer if he stays on his diet, Matthew. We're proud of you, Matthew. In the meantime, y'all stay blessed. Y'all stay blessed.